The first time dough rose under Simone Bell's fingertips, she felt something stir deep inside her, a quiet promise that sweetness could reshape the world. She was 8 years old, perched on a sturdy wooden stool beside her grandmother's battered kitchen table, watching as Aunt May folded butter into layers of flour and water, coaxing it into the flakiest croissants Simone had ever tasted. The air was warm with the scent of vanilla and cinnamon, dust motes dancing in the sunlight that filtered through lace curtains. Her grandmother's gentle hands guided Simone's own, teaching her to press just hard enough to seal the dough without squeezing out the steam that would later puff it into golden crescents. After school, Simone would pad into that kitchen in her mismatched pajamas, her hair still damp from the morning shower, eager to learn the secrets hidden in old recipe cards stained with decades of butter and berry juice. She memorized every ratio: 1 part sugar to 3 parts, cream, 2 tablespoons of yeast to each cup of warm milk, and practiced her whisk flick until she could whip egg whites into stiff peaks faster than anyone else in her class. At birthdays and family gatherings, she layered her first cakes, a dense chocolate torte filled with raspberry compote, a cloud-like vanilla sponge laced with lemon curd. Each slice carried the weight of her grandmother's pride, and the laughter of cousins smeared with frosting. In high school, Simone took her talents to the county fair, entering purple-hued beet macarons that shimmered like tiny gemstones, dusted in edible gold. The judges marveled at her delicate shells and complex flavor balance, awarding her first place in a blue ribbon she pinned above her bed with trembling hands. Encouraged by the ribbon's silent applause, she transformed the trunk of her uncle's pickup truck into a makeshift pastry stand on weekends. Classic beignets kissed with lavender sugar, flaky palmiers dusted with fleur de sel, and buttery kouign-amanns that crackled with caramelized edges. Locals lined up, sipping coffee from recycled mason jars, marveling that a teenager could spin such magic from flour and sugar. By the time Simone turned 24, she had saved every tip and birthday gift to secure a tiny storefront on Main Street, a pale yellow cottage with a glass display case that gleamed under warm lantern light. She painted the sign herself in looping script, Belle's Boulangerie. Inside, a single wrought iron table welcomed 2 or 3 guests, the rest perched on stools at the open kitchen counter, where Simone moved like a conductor, measuring, folding, proofing, creating buttery croissants that flaked at the lightest touch, eclairs glazed in mirror-sheen chocolate, and millefeuilles layered with whipped vanilla bean creme. With each careful creation she placed in the display, she bottled the lessons of her grandmother's kitchen, the patience of rising dough, the joy of shared sweetness, and offered her community a place where every bite felt like coming home. Simone arrived at the towering glass doors of Meridian Bank on a crisp Tuesday morning, her portfolio clutched beneath her arm like a lifeline. Inside, under bright fluorescent lights and the soft hum of air conditioning, she joined a line of neatly dressed applicants waiting for their appointments. When her name was called, she stepped into the lending officer's office, a compact space with a walnut desk and beige walls lined with framed certificates. "Ms. Bell," said the officer, flipping through her business plan with a polite smile, "your bakery has excellent foot traffic and your financial projections are thorough, but our collateral requirements state a minimum of $150,000 in tangible assets. Your leasehold improvements and specialty ovens account for only $80,000. He paused, brow creasing with apology. "Without additional collateral or a guarantor, the loan would be high risk, according to our guidelines." Simone's heart sank as she watched his pen hover over the decline stamp. She had anticipated questions, but not this. She asked quietly if she could provide more documentation, personal assets, letters of support, anything to bolster her case. The officer shook his head. "We have strict underwriting policies. I'm sorry, Ms. Bell." Leaving the bank, Simone walked through the business district, feeling smaller with every step. Her storefront, once a beacon of possibility, now seemed fragile, her ovens silent sentinels. She replayed the officer's words, wondering where her passion and her community's support had failed to meet the bank's cold criteria. In the days that followed, she spoke with her landlord about extending rent relief, negotiated with her suppliers for delayed payments, and sifted through personal savings accounts for hidden reserves. But with each plan B, she faced the same stark question. Without that loan, could Belle's Boulangerie survive its next busy season? Yet even as doubt pressed in, Simone's resolve hardened. She would find another way to secure her dreams, one pastry at a time. That evening, Simone set up her phone against a stack of flour sacks and pressed record. Leaning into the frame, she spoke directly to the camera. Hi, I'm Simone Bell of Belle's Boulangerie. Last week, my loan application was denied, despite perfect credit and a waiting list of customers. I need your help to grow. Behind her, rows of golden croissants and sugar dust beignets filled the display case, each one a symbol of the bakery she had poured her life into. She flipped the camera to show the cramped prep area, a single oven pushed to its limit, a battered mixer working overtime, and handwritten order tickets piled high. Then, she cut to short clips of regulars, giving on-camera testimonials. An elderly couple declaring that Simone's danishes were the sweetest part of their mornings. A local artist crediting her lavender macarons with fueling inspiration. A young mom praising the flaky pies that comforted her during late-night study sessions. Their faces beamed as they explained how Belle's Boulangerie had become more than a shop. It was a gathering place, a cornerstone of community life. Next, Simone filmed herself, pulling open a flour-covered ledger to reveal months of crowded weekend sales and wait lists that snaked out the door. She held back tears as she read aloud a handful of heartfelt notes customers had left. Your eclairs saved my wedding reception. Your breads fed my family after the storm. You deserve to thrive. She ended the video by looking straight into the lens and saying, if we can't get a bank loan, maybe together we can show the world why Belle's belongs on every block. She uploaded the 2-minute video with the hashtag #BakeHerDay and tagged local food bloggers and neighborhood groups. Within hours, shares multiplied. Instagram influencers reposted clips of her smiling under flour-dusted lights. Twitter feeds buzzed with "Loan Me the Dream," and Facebook comments flooded in from strangers offering crowdfunding support. By the next morning, her video had reached tens of thousands of viewers, who tagged friends, offered advice on alternative financing, and pledged to line up outside her door come opening time. As the bakery's phone jingled with new catering inquiries, and volunteers offered to help with a Kickstarter campaign, Simone realized that her plea had ignited something far bigger than her ovens could bake, a movement to give her, and every small entrepreneur, the chance to rise. By the end of the week, Belle's Boulangerie had become the talk of the town and beyond. It started with a small crowdfunding page Simone set up on a whim, offering rewards ranging from a dozen lavender beignets for a $10 pledge to a private croissant-making class in her tiny kitchen for $1,000. Within 24 hours, her goal of $15,000 was met, and then doubled as more backers arrived. Friends she hadn't seen in years showed up on her doorstep with jars of their family's secret jams to donate as pastry fillings. A local brewery offered to pair its house-made sour beer with Simone's tangy fruit tarts in a special brew and bake pop-up night. Meanwhile, food influencers from across the region pulled on their tartan overcoats and marched through her front door with ring lights in tow, filming slow-mo shots of flaky croissant layers that glistened like spun gold. Their Instagram stories tagged Belle's in tags and geolocation stickers, and within hours their followers were dropping into her shop like a flood tide, snapping pictures at every corner, commenting on the intimate charm of her bustling counter, and swiping up to share her crowdfunding link. Local press caught the wave. The city's daily paper ran a feature headlined, "From Denied to Delicious," profiling Simone's journey from bank refusal to viral baking sensation. A morning TV show sent its lifestyle reporter at dawn to capture the lines of early bird patrons craving Simone's pain au chocolat, reporting live as she turned out batches of buttery eclairs and humbly thanked the camera crew. Even the food critic for the Metropolitan magazine penned a surprise sidebar. Belle's is proof that community passion can bake success where red tape once blocked the oven. As word spread on neighborhood listservs and foodie forums, volunteers offered their skills pro bono. A web designer revamped Simone's barebones site into an elegant online storefront with integrated crowdfunding updates and Baker's Journal blog posts documenting each stretch of dough. A videographer edited her testimonial clips into a polished montage that played on a loop at her counter, reminding every customer that their support was part of something larger than just a morning pastry run. Within 2 weeks, Simone had raised over $70,000, enough not only to secure the SBA loan she'd been denied, but also to invest in a second oven, a commercial-grade mixer, and a part-time assistant to handle the crowdfunding orders. As she stood in the now expanding back room, the hum of new equipment echoing her relief, she realized that what had begun as a desperate plea had become a groundswell of solidarity. In that moment, the walls she'd faced at the bank dissolved before the irresistible power of community. Proof that sometimes the only capital you need is a handful of flour, a generous network, and the courage to ask for a chance. Under the glare of midday light, streaming through the bank's towering windows, Simone sat across from Regional Vice President Helen Mercer and a circle of stern-faced loan officers. The same office where she had once been shown the curt decline stamp now felt charged with a different energy. Nearly every chair was filled with curious colleagues and a local reporter taking discreet notes. Mercer cleared her throat and offered Simone a folder stamped with the Meridian Bank crest. "I want to begin with an apology," Mercer said, voice sincere. "Our decision to deny your SBA loan was wrong. We failed to recognize the strength of your business model and the depth of community support you've earned." Simone opened the folder to find a formal letter of apology, acknowledging the collateral miscalculation and pledging to correct the record with credit agencies. Mercer continued, "We are prepared to offer you a $100,000 low-interest loan, secured entirely by your bake shop equipment, with no personal guarantees required. Additionally, our small business advisory group will assign you a dedicated mentor to help optimize your financial planning and cash flow management." Across the table, loan officers slid revised term sheets and amortization schedules toward her, each number reflecting the trust her viral campaign had inspired. Simone's heart pounded as she reviewed the terms: a 3-year repayment horizon, an interest rate below market average, and a line of credit tied to quarterly sales benchmarks rather than static asset valuations. She saw that Mercer had waived all origination fees and included an option for future expansion financing if she hit specified growth targets. As Simone processed the offer, a murmured ripple of approval passed through the room. Reporters snapped photos, and Helen nodded for her to take her time. When Simone looked up, she found Mercer's gaze warm. "You deserve this opportunity," Mercer said. "Your bakery's success proves that the most valuable collateral is community trust." Simone closed the folder and extended her hand. "Thank you," she said, voice thick with emotion. "Not just for the funds, but for seeing me at all." As they finalized the paperwork, Simone envisioned the cafe's second oven arriving, the extra staff who would join her early morning prep, and the community events she could now host in her expanded space. Outside the bank lobby, the local reporter approached with a congratulatory smile, asking for a soundbite. Simone paused, thinking of every patron who had rallied behind her, every volunteer who had given time and talent, and offered a simple statement: "When a community believes in you, there's no limit to what you can bake." Walking back to Belle's Boulangerie, loan documents in hand, Simone realized the bank's reversal was more than financial. It was a testament to collective power reshaping institutional policy. And as she pushed open her bakery's door, the scent of warm brioche greeted her like a promise. That resilience, fueled by solidarity, could turn the bitterest no into the sweetest new beginning. With her new low-interest loan in hand and the cafe's second oven humming by dawn, Simone set her sights on growth, but not just for herself. She envisioned Belle's Boulangerie as a beacon for aspiring bakers like her, a business model that could uplift communities with each buttery croissant and delicate macaron. Over the next months, Simone poured every spare moment into crafting a franchise prototype. She began by remodeling her original storefront. Walls painted a warm almond hue, custom shelving hand-built to display pastries at eye level, and a small teaching corner outfitted with stools and a demonstration counter. Behind the scenes, she standardized every recipe down to the gram of flour, the precise resting time for laminated dough, and the exact folding technique for her signature kouign-amann. She hired a local graphic designer to develop a comprehensive brand guide, fonts, color swatches matching her bakery's signature cinnamon butter tone, and logo placement for awnings, pastry boxes, and staff aprons. Next, she assembled a training curriculum in a binder thick with photographs, step-by-step croissant lamination, piping techniques for eclairs, and sanitation protocols adapted for small urban kitchens. She filmed video modules on her phone, demonstrating how to properly assess dough hydration or calibrate the convection oven for even browning, and uploaded them to a password-protected portal. Volunteers from her crowdfunding campaign signed up to participate in pilot workshops, coming each Saturday to learn from Simone and her lead baker, Marisol, how to manage a dinner rush crowd of coffee drinkers and cake buyers. When the first franchise agreement was signed by a pair of Detroit entrepreneurs who had seen Belle's Boulangerie's story on national morning television, Simone knew her systems were ready for the crucible of fresh markets. She traveled to Detroit's Corktown neighborhood, trading her apron for a clipboard as she guided the new owners through build-out, positioning ovens for efficient workflow, training baristas on milk steaming for café au lait, and coaching local high school students, hired as assistants, in gentle folding techniques that turned simple dough into a flaky masterpiece. In the evenings, she led tasting panels where neighborhood residents sampled collard green quiche and maple pecan kouign-amann, providing the kind of grassroots feedback she'd cherished in her own Arts District launch. Back in New Orleans, word spread that Belle's Boulangerie was more than a single success. It was now a model of ethical franchising that emphasized local hiring, mentorship, and community engagement. Within a year, Simone had signed 3 more locations in Austin, Chicago's West Loop, and Portland's Alberta Arts District, all staffed at least 50% by veterans and single parents seeking a second chance. Each new shop opened with a ribbon-cutting ceremony where Simone personally delivered jars of her grandmother's preserve recipe and pledged a percentage of opening day sales to local food security nonprofits. As Belle's Boulangerie franchises multiplied, Simone established a Belle's Baking Fellowship, offering free training and microloans to 10 underrepresented bakery founders each year. Alumni of the program went on to launch everything from vegan donut carts in Atlanta to gluten-free pastry cafes in Seattle. In industry conferences, Simone spoke not as a celebrity chef, but as a community builder. "My goal was never to bake the most croissants," she told an audience of hundreds. "It was to share the craft so others could feed their families, hire their neighbors, and bake joy into every corner of their city." Standing in the grand lobby of an international bakery expo, flanked by posters of her team's success stories, Simone reflected that the loan denial had been both her greatest challenge and her catalyst. From that single storefront, she had spun a franchise phenomenon rooted in solidarity, proving that with resilience, generosity, and a pinch of sugar, one baker's dream could rise far beyond the walls of her own shop. Years later, Simone stood in the bright, airy atrium of Belle's Boulangerie's 25th franchise location, a reinvention in Vancouver's up-and-coming district, watching as the morning light filtered through towering windows onto rows of gleaming pastry cases. Each shelf displayed the same sculpted layers of kouign-amann and plump fruit tarts that had first inspired customers in New Orleans. Yet every shop bore its own community's imprint. Vancouver's shop offered maple rose macarons paired with local honey. Detroit's storefront featured a wildflower harvest loaf designed with Michigan-grown grains. And Austin's cafe rotated monthly specials, highlighting Texas pecans and prickly pear jelly. That morning's grand opening brought together an eclectic crowd, a group of veterans hired through Simone's Belle's Baking Fellowship, their uniforms crisp and their faces eager. Local artists commissioned to paint a mural of native flowers on the sidewall, and founding franchisees, once strangers brought together by Simone's vision, who now shared stories of mentorship and mutual success. As the ribbon was cut, Simone felt the familiar thrill of possibility ripple through her chest, echoing the first time she had folded dough under her grandmother's guidance. In her opening remarks, Simone paused before the microphone, letting the buzz of conversation settle into respectful quiet. She spoke of the knock that denial had delivered at Meridian Bank, and of how that moment had sparked a viral campaign that proved the power of collective belief. She recounted how each franchise owner had stepped forward, not just as a business partner, but as a community steward, pledging a portion of their proceeds to local food justice initiatives and hosting monthly bake-alongs for young aspiring chefs. But this, she said, gesturing around the vaulted atrium where pastry steam mingled with the scent of fresh coffee, this is what happens when a single voice refuses to be silenced, and when countless other voices rise in harmony. Belle's Boulangerie is not mine alone. It belongs to every baker who learned at my side, every customer who believed in us, and every community that welcomed us in. After the ceremony, Simone slipped away to the back kitchen, where she found her original cast-iron mixing bowl perched on a stainless steel table surrounded by state-of-the-art equipment. She scooped a handful of flour and closed her eyes, recalling the rhythmic press of dough and the scent of yeast as it bloomed. She opened her eyes to see Marisol, her lead trainer, offering a fresh sheet of laminated instructions for a new gluten-free sourdough recipe. Together, they began measuring ingredients, hands moving as naturally as they had a decade before in that tiny cafe. As the first batches entered the ovens, Simone slipped outside to the sidewalk, where a young apprentice, a scholarship recipient from the fellowship program, wheeled up a cart of her own cinnamon swirl buns and offered them to waiting customers. Children pressed their faces against the glass to watch the steam dance, and parents snapped photos with grins of delight. In that moment, Simone understood that her journey, from loan rejection, viral crowdsourcing, and cautious bank reversals, to a thriving franchise network, had always led to this, a living, breathing testament that dreams nurtured by community could rise higher and feed more people than any one baker could have baked alone. And as she took a deep breath of sweet air, she knew Belle's Boulangerie would continue to grow, flourish, and bring joy in every city it touched, one handcrafted pastry at a time.